Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today for his second appearance on TezTalks Live is Andrei Taranu, Decentralist Product Manager at dOrg. dOrg, for those who might not know, is the autonomous collective building decentralized infrastructure and applications all across the blockchain world and right here in the Tezos ecosystem. dOrg is the team behind Homebase, the Tezos-powered app that enables users to create and manage decentralized autonomous organizations, aka DAOs, on the Tezos blockchain. On today's stream, we're giving away a fabulous dOrg swag bag to one of our lucky viewers. If you'd like that lucky viewer to be you, keep an ear out for a keyword later on during the stream. And of course, if you have any questions for Andre that you'd like me to ask, please add them in the chat at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can before we wrap up. Hi, Andre. How are things in Bucharest these days?
Hey, Stu. Good to be here again. Things are steady here. It's getting warm. People are nice.
Perfect. Perfect. Since you already introduced yourself and walked us through your journey down the Tezos rabbit hole in your last appearance here, maybe we can start out with you introducing dOrg a bit. What exactly is dOrg and what is its place in the Tezos ecosystem?
Absolutely. So, dOrg is a professional DAO. We provide software development services for Web3 projects and consultancy. And we also have a few homegrown projects that are owned by the DAO. The DAO has been around since 2019. We're about 100 strong now, but not all the members are active in projects. And in terms of earnings, I think we made about 8 million and some change in this time. Working with some cool clients like the Ethereum Foundation, Gnosis, Amnesty International, Balancer, lots of them. From the client perspective, there's no difference between working with us and working with like a traditional dev shop, a good one, hopefully. But internally, we have democracy, which it's quite challenging to convey in words how that feels. Um, and of course, there are some really cool companies out there with very good culture, and I imagine there are some DAOs with toxic culture. I don't know, but on the whole, statistically, like mathematically speaking, this decentralized organization is more likely to yield fairness, and it not necessarily more likely to produce more efficiency. So we do need to have processes in place to make sure that happens, and we for the most part use agile and best practices, um, and additionally we have some like novel workflows, like all the projects that we work on are open source within dOrg unless the client prefers to have confidentiality. So what that means is any of our members can pick up a task from a project board, and execute. And we have like a way of estimating complexity before that with the planning poker and all of that. So that's a cool thing that we do. And so for a project like Homebase, which is open source, this works great. In the Tezos ecosystem, like our relationship with the Tezos ecosystem is Homebase, this DAO administration platform, which is kind of the only one on Tezos right now. And yeah, this has been around for a year and a half, something like that. We're super excited to continue on this journey.
Okay. Can you walk us through a little bit about Homebase and the part that you expect it will play in the Tezos ecosystem moving forward?
Yes. It's a mix between expectation and hope, I guess. So, like I was saying, I think last time we spoke, I feel like DAOs are the best of what blockchain has to offer. So, given that, I expect that Homebase will play a big part, um, because even though right now we don't have that many communities, like that many active communities, lots of people made DAOs, but in terms of volume of proposals, it stands to grow. But as trustless consensus gains more awareness, we expect that more people will instantiate DAOs and will take advantage of this. And we are kind of preparing for that. So it's quite a nice circumstance that we find ourselves in, because um, we can still make some mistakes without having like a huge impact. We can, have some, we're not aiming to do that, but we can have some bugs
Mm,
and we can patch them up before anybody notices. But we are kind of getting um, to a point where, and I think maybe we've even passed that point where we're ready for like mass adoption.
mm,
And I'm not sure if you've said this already, but the Ethereum, the sorry, the Tezos Foundation is starting a program which I just learned about, where they are selecting the new DAOs that are showing up on Homebase, and they will be awarding them with some cash in the treasury. So hopefully that will encourage more adoption.
do you know how they're going to be evaluated to decide which ones would get
I'm
awards?
not sure of the details yet. I
Okay.
just found out about this yesterday from Corey. But I think they're going to be looking at the how many members, like the if they are real members and not just aiming to, you know, take advantage of this. Um, so yeah.
Very interesting. A moment ago, you mentioned this sort of stage that we're at where there's room for experimentation, there's room to make mistakes, there's room to like work out the bugs in these processes, and without, as you say, without people noticing, because we're not at that mass adoption stage yet. And I'm curious, like leading up to this, obviously your team's been operating in this space for a while. Um, how has the mandate of dOrg and Homebase evolved as the blockchain ecosystem has kind of changed over time?
Well, we've we're preparing. Basically, our mandate, the way I see it, is to be able to fulfill all the functions of traditional governance. So I know that's saying a lot, but you want to be able to coordinate with your community and allocate resources. That's the bare minimum. And you want to be able to store and manage a wide variety of assets like different tokens, NFTs. And you also want to be able to um, trustlessly make statements, or to have like a record of things that the DAO officially endorses, and that is the registry. Like to give you an example, for an organization like Amnesty International, which we've worked with, they put out periodic statements. And like their use case for this is that they can just have that be attested that the all of their members agree with that, because they vote to put it uh, on chain and make it public. So we aim to fulfill all the functions of traditional governance, which at some point has to include also dispute resolution, right? That's a big
Mm.
part of how we organize ourselves. And in the world of humans, there are lots of disputes. Um, and we also want to be able to have politicians. So that means not everybody in the community has time to actively find out about the proposals and review them and make an informed vote. But people can trust other people in that they have the same values and they would vote as in the same, upholding those values in the vote. So delegation is also a big part of it, which is actually the latest feature that we're developing, and it's going to be live next week.
Okay. I would like to get into the specifics of the latest features, but we had a couple of audience cues come through. The first one being, what's in the swag bag and how do we win? I can answer the second part. You win by listening for the keyword, which we'll announce soon, and entering it in the live stream chat. As far as what's in the swag bag, I will let Andrei answer that one.
Yeah, with some merch from our store, which I can share a link to. Maybe a T-shirt. So whoever wins, I'll grab the size and then make sure that you get it in your size.
Okay. And the other question is, what is the best use case for a DAO? And that question was asked by Ex Machina.
That's a very broad question.
Yes.
The best use case is, I would say, what we are doing at dOrg. So we are managing our resources like the surplus, right? We all pay 10% of what we make to the treasury. So, you have someone making $100 per hour, and then they pay 10% of that to the treasury, and then everybody does that. At some point, there'll be some cash in the treasury, and you can decide collectively how to spend that, whether it's for some like permanent roles like you would need in a company, like HR or marketing, or accounting. Like, these are not positions that generate revenue directly from the client, but you do need this in order to function as an organization. So you make proposals. For example, we need to allocate this much for this department or for this role, and then people discuss on the forum and then they vote. So yeah, that's kind of the best case.
Okay. Um, so as you mentioned before, your team has added some new features Homebase recently. Can you walk us through the features that have been added?
Sure. So over the last 3 months, I think the last time we talked, the merge was just about ready to launch, and yeah, in the meantime, it went live. The merge. Let me explain what that is. We've had two apps before. We had Homebase, just the main app, and we've had Homebase Lite, which is like equivalent to something like a snapshot that you see on Ethereum. So it's an off-chain polling product, and we merged them so that if you have a Homebase DAO, you are able in the same app to do both on-chain and off-chain polls. And the latest feature, like I was saying, is the ability to delegate, and we've actually worked with Tezos domains to implement that. They developed the contract, they audited the contracts, and it, the auditing was finished recently. And right now, if you go into the app and you try to you instantiate a new DAO, you have the option of also spinning up a token, also in the app in the same creator. And that particular token is a variation of the FA2, which has the additional endpoints for the delegation. So the data for the delegation is not stored in the DAO contract, and which is called base DAO. It's actually stored in the token contract, and it has some endpoints for that. Like I was saying, one is to assign your voting power to someone else, so to delegate, and another is to query anybody's voting power. And of course, you can revoke that action. So yeah, that's the latest feature, which, like I was saying, is going to go live next week.
Very cool. Obviously, there have been numerous upgrades and features added to Homebase since it sort of first arrived on the Tezos scene. I'm curious, in terms of the larger Homebase roadmap, where do things currently stand? Like, how far away are we from Homebase being considered a finished product?
Yeah, well, that's a interesting notion, because usually in software you're never like done with a product, right? You always, because the user base, the needs of the user base keep changing, so you always need to be um, keeping your finger on the pulse of what your users want, and continuously add new feature or remove features or just change the product. But with DAOs, I feel like it's a bit of a different story. I feel like there is the possibility of having an ideal set of features that once you have those in place, you don't need to change much. However, there is one thing that actually gets us closer to the ideal set of features, is this arbitrary contract interaction that we call Lambda. This is something that we developed like 6 months ago. And what this is basically you can add any functionality to your contract. So it gives users the ability to upgrade their own contract with whatever capabilities they want. And that's also based on consensus. So that the way it works is you make a proposal to add a Lambda, and then the community approves that. Once that is approved, it goes on the list of actions that you can take, and then you can make another proposal to actually invoke that function with whatever parameters you want to have, and that goes a long way towards this ideal set of features, because, like I was saying, it can be anything. But apart from that, or beyond that, um, dispute resolution is something that we are missing, and I feel like it is the last piece of the puzzle. Um, However, I can also see beyond that, and like you can make the case that if there is, like right now, the scene is quite peaceful in the sense that there's not a very uh, you don't have much tension between the regulators and the Web3 community. There's some, but they're not like actively trying to shut down our little thing that we have going on here. But in the same way that right now Homebase affords to have a few bugs, and it's not such a big the deal, like we're not disrupting the workflow of many DAOs, we are also at the point where we can experiment and we can try to add features that would get us in a competitive position, at least in terms of functionality, to the traditional governance, to the territorial administrations. So you can make the case that it's worth developing additional decentralization. Like Homebase is hosted on a centralized server, right? If that server goes down, then of course people can interact directly with the chain, which is decentralized, but it's not great, especially for non-technical people. So you could make the case that another useful feature, even beyond dispute resolution, would be to make native apps for Homebase, like to run it natively on your phone, on your desktop computer. But that's kind of it. I feel like we're getting close to, uh, like I was saying, an ideal set of features.
Very cool. A couple more audience cues have come through. Andy would like to know, why did you launch two products and then merge them, Homebase and Homebase Lite? I'd love to know the technical logic behind having two separate products at first.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily a strategic product decision. Homebase Lite was started not long after the main app, definitely before I joined. And yeah, it was supposed to be this standalone uh, off-chain polling product, like Snapshot is, right? Snapshot is just an off-chain polling tool. Um, and we did more brainstorming and more testing, more user interviews, and from that it resulted that it makes more sense to have them together.
Okay. And Kelly asks, I still don't understand DAOs that much. How hard is it to set one up on Tezos?
It's not hard at all. You just go to Tezos homebase.io and you click on create DAO and follow the steps there.
Just like
You
that,
need to
eh?
have your wallets, obviously.
Okay. So for those who are curious and would like to maybe try setting up a DAO or experiment or at least have a look, that's the place to go.
Yeah, that's the place to go.
The
Tezos
place to go.
homebase, yeah.
Okay.
And I would recommend that, especially if you're new to DAOs, maybe you can start with light DAO, because right now in the creator you have two options. You can make a full DAO or you can make a light DAO, which has less features. It's less intimidating. You don't get the cycles. You don't get the quorum. You just get the bare bones functionality of making a proposal and voting on that proposal.
Mm.
And additionally, you have something that is unique to the off-chain poll, which is multiple choice voting.
Okay. This is all great stuff so far. I'm excited to learn more. But before we get into the nitty gritty, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Oh, we're doing that again?
Oh, yeah. We
Okay.
always do it. Before we do that, I'd like to announce today's keyword for the dOrg swag bag we're giving away today. Today's keyword is exclamation point home base. Enter the keyword exclamation point home base in the live stream chat, and Nightbot will randomly select today's winner, who will announce for the end of the stream. Okay, now, Andre, it is lightning round time once again. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun, so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
All right. Let's do it.
Goulash or pizza?
Pizza.
Naps or exercise?
Exercise.
Movies or video games?
Video games.
Is this real life or are we in a simulation?
We're definitely in a simulation.
True or false? Money buys happiness.
False.
One thing you absolutely want to do before you die is?
I want to go to Japan.
Answer. The last place you traveled was?
Gran Canaria, and it was a while ago.
Cool. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
I like to write code.
I was just going to say, you
Sorry.
can't say code.
Can I take that back? Because I have
Yes,
a new
you
one, which is recent.
Okay.
I like to talk to GPT-4.
Good answer.
But these are the same questions. Sorry.
Not all of them.
Goulash. I think you switched sushi for goulash.
In any case, those are excellent answers. And this concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Let's get back to it. When you and I checked in ahead of this stream, you touched on something, and you actually mentioned it a little bit earlier here. That being the need in the blockchain space for on-chain mechanisms for dispute resolution and accountability. Can you expand a little bit on that idea and talk about how DAOs can sort of rise to meet that need?
Yeah. So we are trying to make the claim that you can use the on-chain governance for anything and everything that would work in traditional governance and in traditional economy. So obviously dispute resolution is a big part of that, because as you know, people often don't disagree. And let me just give you an example of like a scenario how that would work. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's take dOrg again, our example. We work with clients, right? And the clients want to have a specific thing that they need building. And we assimilate the requirements from them. We uh, write them down in a document, and then that document is stored on IPFS, and it contains the definition of done for whatever it is that the client wants us to do. And then we start working. If at any point in time, or when it comes time to deliver a milestone, to present the deliverables, the client is not happy with the agreement. Oh, sorry. Before that, um, also the client pays us in a escrow. So what that means is um, they they put the money in a contract. We cannot access that money until after we've delivered on whatever milestone, one or more milestones. So if at the time when we deliver, the client is not happy, they can throw the milestone into arbitration. Now, what that means is a third party, which can also be a DAO, has the ability, has the right, the on chain right, to go in, look at the definition of done, look at the whatever we provide them, like the deliverables, and then make an assessment of whether or not we delivered. The vote that the decision that they make is, of course, public,
Hmm.
and it goes into a history of rulings that they made. And again, it works better if it's that arbiter is also decentralized. Of course, there's a single address that is specified as arbiter when we both start the engagement, like us and the client, but they can be like a DAO. And then they are and the fee that they get is we stake that at the beginning. So we put that down so that they get paid in case there is a dispute. They get paid. Um, they are incentivized just uh, commercially with money to be fair, because if they're not, like I was saying, the voting history is public. Anybody
Hmm.
can see that, and they can make their own assessment of whether or not that arbiter did a fair ruling in that case. And if it's not fair, then they're not likely to be used again in future projects as arbiters. So that's kind of at the high level the dispute resolution mechanism that we designed.
Well, I
I
guess
want to
there's
say
there's some accountability there as well. If there's sort of a reputation building aspect about how it's
exactly.
okay.
There's accountability for all the parties, for the
Mhm.
arbiter, and for the two parties that are directly involved in the agreement. And I want to make a little note here. The most known platform for dispute resolution is Claros. I don't know if you've heard of it. Have you
No,
heard of it?
no.
Okay, so this is something, it works on Ethereum. Maybe that's why I didn't hear it, but it's like the most well known, like the platform that everybody talks about when they talk about dispute resolution on Web3. And how that works is the jurors are incentivized to vote for whatever they think the result will be. So they're not incentivized to vote according to what they think is fair, but they are paid if their vote matches what the majority of the jurors decide, which
Okay.
I think is not ideal. I think our
No.
system is a little bit more, it's set up to provide more fairness.
Yeah, I guess if we admit that we're living in an inherently unfair world, then predicting what the outcome will be, the unfair outcome is probably more likely than the fair one, right?
I don't know. I mean, that's not even a factor, because if you look at how it works, like in the justice system, the jurors only look at the case and they make a decision not based on what they think the other jurors might
Mm,
vote on, right? And I think that's how it should work. You should use your own moral compass and make an assessment of the case.
makes sense. Absolutely. And I'm sure you'd agree there's a lot of real world problems in many areas of modern life that could be solved to a large degree by implementing these kind of tools, like a DAO governance model. Do you think that the public at large understands that these tools exist and how they could be used to help solve these problems today?
Well, no, unfortunately, I feel like that's our main problem right now, awareness. And it's also we're faced there's a challenge because people I don't want to like say on on the whole, but when it you talk about these advanced technologies like blockchain, people have a mental block. It's not that difficult to internalize and understand, but I've noticed since I've been working in the Web3 scene that people have this preconception that it's too difficult and they don't even want to bother with learning how it works. And it's our job, obviously, to package it in a way that they addresses that, like they don't feel that anymore. So we have to make it
Mm.
as straightforward as possible for them. I think if people were to understand the ideological and practical advantages, what the trustless governance can offer, I think there would be much excitement
And
towards
with that
this.
excitement would come adoption, right?
Absolutely, adoption and maybe even pressure to implement this at the territorial administration, at the level of the top level of the administration.
So, knowing that we're in a world that's sort of filled with people who are hungry for alternatives in their approaches to governance and the approaches to governance that sort of rule our lives, how do we get that message out there, in your view?
Well, if you look at who is most interested in Web3, in crypto, it's young people. Um, and rightfully, I mean, I, it could be more, all ages could be interested in it, but right now it's young people. And um, we could try to make content that appeals to them, like in a mainstream way. Like if you think about it, if Ariana Grande starts talking about DAOs, then lots of people will be very interested to find out what that is. So
That wouldn't cost much, right? To get
no,
her.
it would cost a lot, but I'm not referring to
I
paying
understand.
somebody.
I'm sorry. I'm just being silly.
Yeah, yeah, no, but the thing that like, I was trying to think of a game plan for this, and it's challenging because you have the techies, like, and the nerds, I guess you could call them, and they have their own appeal, but they're a community quite removed from the other, like the mainstream people. So I think if we were to find a working formula to bridge that gap and like make funny artistic content, and then from that position start pushing the advantages of this, I think people would be more receptive.
100%. And I think there's a lot of value in some of the, if you talk to young people these days, social causes are very important to them. The environment's very important to them. I feel like there's a lot of value in those sort of um, charitable endeavors that we have seen those things come into play in the blockchain space, and they do drive people to participate and to look at it if they feel like what they're doing is gonna help make the world a better place, right?
Yeah, and I also think there's another avenue for that. So there's this what I said, to try to make content that appeals to a mainstream. Also, you you can make the case in a very rational and easy to follow way that unless we implement something like trustless governance, we'll be in big trouble, like as a civilization. We've managed to wing it right now and keep things relatively peaceful. I mean, yeah, at, but this new thing that is coming, which is AI, will need a different type of system to be governed, because the justice system is not equipped to punish AI agents, for example, right? They cannot go to jail, but they can be very bad. So we will need to find a way to keep these things working in a way that the majority of us want them to work.
Hmm. So is this that sort of like, obviously AI is gaining a lot of traction. It's grabbing a lot of headlines. Everybody knows that this is happening right now. There are experts who are sort of ringing alarm bells about it, about what could potentially happen if it's left to grow on its own and unchecked. Do you feel like trustless governance could offer a solution to that?
I feel like it could offer the only solution to that. So, do you want to do like a thought experiment for just a few minutes?
Sure.
Um, let's just take the case of the military and conflict in general. You know, reaction time matters a lot. Being able to hit first, right?
Mhm.
And martial arts. So it is to be expected that more of the decision chain will be automated, because our biology is limited at 300 hertz if you're lucky. It's orders of magnitude slower than AI. So the military is kind of compelled to integrate more and more AI into the decision chain. And obviously, um, you need to have that behaving in a way that the majority of people want. So the risk of a bad actor gaining access to an AI that controls weapons is huge. I mean, it's not huge in terms of like the security of the system. I'm not saying this, the system isn't secure enough, but just having that risk present is very bad.
Mm.
So we, we do need to have um, um, trustless mechanism, like a consensus around what individual agents can do, and that needs to be enforced on chain. Like the inference needs to happen on chain for it to work. um that's how I kind of see
Okay.
it.
That's very interesting. There's one other thing that I'm aware that we're sort of running out of time here. There's one more thing I really wanted to get to, um, and that is around adoption, right? Like, obviously, you've been working on this for a while. We've seen that driving adoption is a problem that many applications in the blockchain space have had to contend with. But I'm curious, from your perspective as a person who's building out Homebase, how does lack of adoption hold that development process back? And how can people in the Tezos ecosystem help to keep things moving forward?
Well, obviously they can help by organizing themselves into DAOs, but I wouldn't want them to do that to help us, right? So we're kind of doing this for everybody. And the yeah the them realizing that they could benefit from doing that is the way to go. We don't want people to just make DAOs so that Homebase has more DAOs. Like that's not a goal in and of itself.
Yeah. Okay. But the part that is a goal is to help people understand the benefit of DAOs and the fact that Homebase is a vehicle to making DAOs easier to interact with, easier to create, easier to manage, and that through people understanding that they would naturally gravitate towards adoption.
Yeah, so I'm claiming that if people understand how it works, mm, most of them, or a big number, would realize how it works for them in their own use case and how they can organize their activity, specifically their professional activity, to take advantage of this. Because from the people that me and us at dOrg have introduced to DAOs, that's how it worked, right? So we've explained how, what the possibilities are, and then something clicked and they said, oh, so I can do this, and then I can have the other people vote, and we can, like, avoid having our, for example, assets frozen by the bank if we are like uh, activists for human rights in a place that doesn't necessarily or could freeze our banks, if that's kind of the avenue. We just let people know, or and maybe give some examples of how other communities are using this, and then they kind of make the connection on their own for how they can
Mm,
benefit from it.
okay. So what's next for Andrei Taranu and dOrg? Do you have any other exciting projects, upgrades, or rollouts in the works right now?
I've had sort of like a moment with dOrg late, uh, well, 2 weeks ago or something like that, because I don't make lots of proposals for. I think this was my second one, but there's this research grant from that OpenAI put a call for, and it was very like everybody and their ChatGPT applied.
Hmm,
Like all of
of
the
course.
organizations that I know in this space applied with their own vision of how to use governance over AI, because that was the challenge that they put out. And obviously, I made a proposal at dOrg um, to see if the community, like the DAO, approves of us applying on behalf of dOrg. Like we're a team inside dOrg, but we are applying on behalf of the entire organization. And I was expecting smooth sailing, because we didn't ask for any like resources from the treasury, but it was contested, and I've had my first like DAO experience, like how can I say this, like being a politician, like trying to convince people
Mhm.
and trying to navigate the different opinions that people have and the views. And at some point I won that. Yeah, I mean, we won it with over 80%. uh,
Congratulations.
but thank you. But then I wanted to go around and try to see that we're cool with the people that voted against. And at some point I was like, am I like a politician right now? Because I was like keeping track of the voting weight in people with more voting weight. I was trying to see that we have good relationship and we can still count on their vote in the future. And I was thinking, but I don't like politics. I kind of don't like it at all. So why? And I don't like politics even in companies, because there's lots of politics
Of
in
course there is.
companies. So I was thinking, why is it that I don't mind this? And the reason I don't mind this is because of this decentralization. Even if you're in a company, everybody tries to suck up to a single person, which is not exciting, because at some point you know what that person likes, what they don't like, and it's not fun. But if you're trying to convince a community, there is a sense of excitement for me, because I feel like if I make the arguments and if I present the arguments in a logical way, uh, the community will kind of see that, and uh, I will win.
And you get to find out in real time how good your arguments were, right?
Yes, well, theoretically, it can happen even in a company, but the fact that there isn't one person who decides makes it more engaging.
For sure. I can totally
So yeah,
understand that.
to answer what's next, I'm super excited about the project that we started internally with governance over AI. We'll see how
Very
that
interesting.
goes.
Okay. So we're unfortunately we've run right out of time here.
Okay.
But before we close off, I do need to announce the winner of the dOrg swag bag, and today's winner is Sarcobam. Congratulations, Sarcobam, to claim your prize. Just email us at social@tezoscommons.org. We'll request a screenshot for verification that you're the account owner, and then we'll get your shiny new dOrg swag bag over to you just as quick as we can. For those who missed out today, we remind you there are awesome giveaways to be found frequently here on the TezTalks live stream, so keep tuning in. I'd also like to remind you all that TezDev 2023 is coming up in Paris in just a few short weeks, beginning July 21st. Early bird tickets are now available. You can use the code TezosEarly1 at checkout. You'll get a 60% discount on entry to this amazing event, so act soon. You can find out more and pick up your early bird tickets at tezos.com/tez-dev. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. Andrei, thanks so much for joining us once again today.
Was that
Um,
okay?
you
How
did a
was it?
great job. It's always awesome to speak to the folks helping to enable on-chain governance here in the Tezos ecosystem and keep us at the forefront of the Web3 revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we sign off?
Well, just thanks for having me, and
Anytime.
check out Homebase.
Check out Homebase. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Andrei Taranu, Decentralist Product Manager at dOrg. Now let's build the future of DAOs on Tezos.